Sometimes the hardest part about being a Christian isn't getting yourself to church or saying no to drugs, but surviving the blech. So in youth ministry, we have something called the Camp High. The Camp High refers to the time where someone goes to a Christian summer camp, spends a lot of time singing praise music, listening to speakers, reading their Bible, and playing, most likely, big, crazy, wild games with a bunch of other Christian kids, and they come back off of the mountain feeling really refreshed, and they have a renewed sense of spirituality, and the rest of their life is going to be different. And then reality strikes. And next thing you know, they're going back to school and nothing in their life has actually changed. So I strongly believe in the phrase Christianity is a relationship, not a religion. That's referring to the fact that originally Christianity was supposed to be this relationship between God and man, that we were putting aside a lot of rituals that existed before Jesus, and that now you can be with God without having to do these very specific things. You don't need rituals to be with God anymore. God just wants to have a relationship with you. So a lot of the advice that we could give based on how to feel close to God is very similar advice to someone who wanted to feel closer to their spouse or to a friend or to a sibling. For example, a husband and wife. The wife is madly in love with the husband at first. She has got butterflies in her stomach when they're dating. She thinks he's so cute and thinks he's so wonderful. Then they get married and she listens to him snore, and they wake up in the morning, and instead of going on crazy trips to the beach, she's doing the dishes, and they're sitting and watching TV, they're eating dinner together at a kitchen table instead of at a fancy restaurant, and the feelings that were there at the beginning are now slowly starting to be different. Not necessarily bad, but very different. They would recognize that this is just a season of a valley. There's a lot of hills and valleys in relationships when it comes to emotions. Now, throughout this video, I want to let you guys know that I am in no way bagging on emotions. You are taking advice from one of the biggest emotional roller coasters that exists on this planet. Feelings are okay. So point number one, make sure that you are putting time into the relationship. If things weren't going so good with you and your boyfriend and you decided not to have any more dates with them because you just weren't feeling it, things are gonna go downhill so fast. An easy way to do this is by just making a regular time to read your Bible every day. And I would start with something really easy, like doing a devotion in the Bible app. Bible app devotions are sometimes less than 5 minutes long and can be pretty meaty sometimes. I don't recommend making that your main diet, but it is a good place to start. I had a friend who made a really funny analogy about this once. He was playing sports and his coach told the entire team, you all need to be eating bananas because you need potassium. And my friend did not like eating bananas, so he decided what he was going to eat was Ben & Jerry's Chunky Monkey. And so he would train and then he would go eat some Chunky Monkey because there's bananas in it. And that's not very good dietary advice, but he did eat some bananas. Basically, if you do not have the capacity to eat a full banana, eat some Chunky Monkey, and maybe the Bible app devotional is that for you. Eating Chunky Monkey is better than nothing. So get yourself on the Bible app. I know I wouldn't feel close to someone if they didn't text me regularly or I didn't see them regularly. It's really hard to feel close to someone that you're not in regular communication with. And if you're not praying to God and reading the Bible, you're gonna feel far from God. I think the best thing to do is wake up and read the Bible early before you go to school or work. That's really hard to do for a lot of people. I did that for a short amount of time. It was amazing. I don't always do that. Sometimes it has to be some Bible app before bed, or during my lunch break, or when I'm going to the bathroom. But do it, because it's better than nothing, right? I'm pretty sure God would rather you read the Bible when you're going to the bathroom than not read it at all. So I'm not suggesting that become a ritual, but I am saying in the relational sense, if you want to have a good relationship with someone, you got to be in contact with them. So you're not going to know what Jesus was like if you haven't read about him for yourself and you're doing it regularly. So those verses are at the top of your mind when you think of him and you're not inventing a Jesus for yourself based on what you think he might be like. Secondly, it really helps to surround yourself with Christians who you can talk about spiritual stuff with. So there's two parts to this. You have to have one, some Christians you have in your life that are accessible and that you can trust to be yourself around. And two, you have to actually be using that time with them to have some spiritual discussions. By the way, I'm not saying that you shouldn't have non-believers as friends, and I'm not saying the only thing you can do with your Christian friends is talk about Jesus. It's just really important that you spend time talking to other Christians about your walk with God. You want to have people that you feel comfortable saying, hey, I don't feel close to God right now. What should I do? Everyone needs accountability, and you can be very encouraged when you're around other people that are kind of doing the same thing as you. You become like the people you're with, and what you do together, you will all become stronger in. So if you want to feel close to God, find people who also have that same desire and encourage each other in it. So the last point I have to make is, if you're not feeling close to God right now, maybe you need to hit the reset button. By that, I mean sometimes when we're far from God, it's not because things have just gotten crazy. Sometimes we actually need to check our hearts and see what's going on. I think these times are very healthy. I don't think there's enough Christians who really do examine themselves. There's a lot of people who call themselves Christians who are just going to be in a valley for life because they never really understood what it meant to be a Christian in the first place. And at this point, they're just so comfortable that they don't really want to come out and say, hey, I don't actually believe this stuff for real. One of the best decisions I ever made was when I was 14 and I decided to do some self-examination. It was the first point where I ever thought to myself, hey, maybe the only reason I believe these things is because I was born into it. Maybe the only reason I go to church and believe in God is because it's the only thing I've been taught my entire life. Taking a pause and actually giving myself a chance to go, wait a minute, what do I believe? Allowed me to actually pursue truth for myself and see what it was I actually did believe. So now I can honestly say that the things that I do believe, I actually do believe. And they weren't exactly the same exact things as what I was raised in, and that's okay. Because it's much better to believe the things that you've actually thought through and reasoned with and wrestled with than to just live your life in a valley that's not even true. Maybe use this time in your valley to go back to square one and really consider what it is that you believe and why you believe it. Maybe you need to seek out some mentors right now that you can really trust in confidence and tell them about your struggles. Maybe you need to go to God with a really honest and vulnerable heart and say, I don't know if you're real or not. I need you to show me. Because I believe that if you honestly go searching for truth, you're gonna find Jesus. Don't be afraid to ask hard questions during this time, especially ones that make you feel uncomfortable. Just like in any relationship, make sure you're doing your part. You can't expect just to have some wonderful feeling where you're not pursuing God back. I'm gonna read a verse real quick that I think applies to this. It's Revelation 3:20, and it's something I've always loved, and I think it's so weird that it's in the last book of the Bible because this last book is so weird and apocalyptic and crazy, and this verse is so beautiful and so normal and tells us so much about Jesus. So let me just read it real quick. Behold, I stand at the door and knock. If anyone hears my voice and opens the door, I will come into him and I will dine with him and he with me. Basically, that's saying that Jesus wants to have a relationship with you. It gives this picture of a friend knocking at your door, wanting to have dinner with you. Someone who has done all the work on their side of the friendship. And because God does not force himself on people, God does not force you to have a relationship with him if you don't want to. He doesn't make anyone spend eternity with him who would not be a fan. Part of it's on you too. Part of your job is to respond to the knock. It's not very hard, but it's something that you do have to do. Sometimes the reason that we don't feel close to God is because we haven't responded to the knock. Every single time a valley happened in my life, it was because of me. It was because I was the one not opening up the door, because the second that I did, it didn't take long for things to get amazing again. Sometimes it hurt because it meant that I would have to confess a lot of sins to God, or reading the Bible would remind me that, ooh, yeah, I haven't been the best person lately. But it's good to have those hard conversations with God. Just like it's good to have a hard conversation with a friend or family that you're struggling with. you always come out the other side stronger. I know things are crazy right now because we're all kind of shut in our houses. Now is the perfect time when you're locked in your house all by yourself to have that existential talk with God. So go out there, or rather stay in there, act like Jesus. I'll see you next time.